Today we're making the most creamy and delicious homemade coconut ice cream. It's rich, smooth, and packed with coconut flavor. Let's get started. In a saucepan, pour half and half heavy cream and coconut milk. We're not using any artificial flavors. In this recipe, you're going to get all of that natural coconut flavor from the coconut milk. Be sure to use regular coconut milk and not fat-free. And I'm going to heat the milk around a medium to medium low temperature. Give it a good stir just to make sure everything is blended. Now, you don't want this to boil. You just want it to heat just until you see little bubbles form along the edges. Now, while that is heating, to my bowl, I am going to separate 6 eggs. For this recipe, we're only using egg yolks, so we're going to separate the yolks from the white, and this is the technique that I use. You can always save the white later. I just made an egg white omelet with that for breakfast the next day, and it was delicious. Now, there are other ways to separate the egg yolk from the egg white, but I find this to be the easiest. I just simply pour the egg yolk back and forth between the 2 eggshells and just allow the egg white to fall into the bowl. And we're using eggs in this recipe because this is a custard-based ice cream. To the eggs, I'm going to add granulated sugar and a pinch of salt. Whisk this together for about 2 to 3 minutes until it becomes pale and thick and silky. This is going to be the base for the custard, and it gives the ice cream that rich, creamy texture. And now that you see the tiny bubbles that formed along the edges, it's time to add the milks to the egg. And now it's time to temper the eggs. This is where we're going to warm up the eggs without scrambling them. Slowly stream the hot milk into the eggs while whisking constantly. And you don't want to rush the step, so just take your time, and I'm using a ladle just to gently add some of that hot milk into the eggs. And I'm adding about 1/3 of the milk. And as always, if you're interested in making this recipe, and I highly recommend that you do, I will have it linked below the video in the description box, or you can head over to my website, jehancancook.com. Now, once that's all mixed in, I'm going to pour it back into the pot with the rest of the milk. Then I'm going to place this back onto the fire, and you want to cook this gently. This is definitely not something you want to cook on high heat, so make sure that you lower that heat and just be patient. And as this cooks, I am just gonna constantly stir it. And I'm cooking this really low because I also want to make sure that this custard does not burn. And just cook it until it's thickened, and I'm gonna test it by seeing if it holds a line on the back of the spoon. Then I've added vanilla extract and just a drop of almond extract. And just be mindful not to be too heavy-handed with the almond extract because a little goes a long way. Remove it from the heat and let it cool for about an hour before straining. Straining the custard will remove any cooked bits or any solid pieces in the custard because we want this to be nice and smooth and creamy. Now, once you've strained it, this is what's going to remain. All those little cooked pieces, we don't want any of that in our ice cream. Now, let the custard base chill in the fridge for at least 4 hours or overnight before placing into your ice cream maker. And churn it according to the directions of your ice cream maker. This should take about 20 to 25 minutes. This is a automatic ice cream maker. I remember when my mom used to make it with a hand cranked one, and it used to take quite a while, but either way works. And I've had this ice cream maker for years, and I have no complaints. It is super easy to use. And I keep the bowl in the freezer, so whenever I'm ready to make ice cream, it's always frozen. And the ice cream is ready. When it's nice and thick like this, transfer it to a freezer safe container and freeze it for at least 4 hours to form up. Of course, you can eat it right away at this stage, but I find that when you eat it this way, it melts very, very quickly. So if you do want to eat it in a cone, it's simply going to melt too fast, but it's still delicious. And I'm just using a Tupperware bowl that I already had. Just make sure that it is freezer safe and also airtight because you don't want the ice cream to get frosty. Now once it's frozen for about 4 hours, it's ready to go. If it was frozen overnight, it may need to sit at room temperature for just a few minutes just to make it scoopable. And that's it, creamy coconut ice cream. It's very hard to show the texture, but that coconut milk just gives it this beautiful creamy texture and a natural gentle coconut flavor. Thank you guys for joining me again. If you do love this recipe, leave a comment below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.